All right, we're just gonna give it a moment to let the waiting room clear. Please make sure you're muted as you enter. Let's get started. Good afternoon. This is a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board, the BCB. Today is July 17th, 2024. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. This is what allows us to meet virtually. This hearing is being recorded and we post it to the City of Boston's website. Before I review some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Joyce, Chair of the Boston Cannabis Board. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Commissioner Gabriel Camacho, Commissioner John Smith, Commissioner Lisa Holmes, Commissioner Sonal Gandhi, and Commissioner Ramon Soto.
Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. My name is Jasmine Nguyen, and I am the Boston Cannabis Board Manager. We are also joined by Luke Sandhouse, who is the Cannabis Licensing Specialist. I will begin by calling each item in the order they appear on the agenda. We have one item on our transactional agenda, which is for a new license application. The applicant will have 10 minutes to present to the BCB, followed by questions from the board members. We will then move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives, followed by the general public. After our transactional hearing, we will move to our informational hearing. If you wish to testify, please sign up via the link that will be placed in the chat. If you have already signed up, you do not have to do it again. Additionally, you may use the chat function to request to testify as well. Please wait until the matter in which you would like to speak about is called. Do not use the chat function to give testimony. It will not be considered. Please state your full name, address, and affiliation, if any, when providing testimony. You will be limited to 2 minutes, at which time you will be muted. Additional testimony may be submitted in writing to cannabisboard@boston.gov. The record will be kept open until Tuesday, July 23rd at 5 p.m. The BCB does not give any more weight to spoken testimony than it does written testimony. The first item we have, the applicant is Rooted In LLC. The proposed license premise is 331 Newberry Street, Back Bay. The license type is a marijuana courier license. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., Thursday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is the equity applicant. They filed the application on July 6, 2023. They held their community meeting on June 20th, 2024. There was a buffer zone conflict with another cannabis establishment. This is currently an open and operating retail establishment, so they're looking to add delivery. Before we proceed with the presentation, I will ask Aaliyah Forrest, who is the Director of Business Strategy for OEOI, to read the equity certification into the record.
Thanks, Jasmine. Good afternoon, everyone. Our office was able to certify Rooted In LLC as an equity applicant through the documentation submitted by the applicants. Rokeya Begum and Solomon Chowdhury are the 51% beneficial interest holders of Rooted In. As Ms. Begum, who is the CMO of Rooted In, with 41% beneficial interest, and Mr. Chowdhury, the CFO of Rooted In, with 10% beneficial interest. Together, they are the 51% beneficial interest holders of the company. They both submitted sufficient documentation that verified that they have been residents of areas of disproportionate impact as defined by the Cannabis Control Commission for at least 5 of the last 10 years. They both submitted copies of their driver's licenses, bank statements, and other documentation that confirm their addresses in both Roxbury and Dorchester. They both were able to verify that they have been residents of the City of Boston since at least 2013, satisfying the criteria that they have resided in the City of Boston for at least the past 7 years. Additionally, both Ms. Begum and Mr. Chowdhury have self-identified as Asian, as they are both of Bengali descent, satisfying the criteria for a person who is of Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, or Indigenous descent. Are there any questions about this certification?
Thank you so much, Aaliyah. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good Afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Brian Keith is, I'm attorney Mike Ross, but Brian Keith is going to conduct the presentation. I see him right there, Brian.
All right,
Everybody.
hello, you can share your screen and begin. You have 10 minutes.
All right, stand by. There's a lot more people in the room than I was expecting. Thought it was just gonna be me and you, Jasmine. Hold on one second.
I can also pull it up if you'd like me to. Oh, there you go. Yep.
Right here. All right, so we haven't been before the BCB in a while. So first few slides is just going to talk about this is going to be a co-located license. So the first few slides will talk about what we have been doing since we opened 19 or so months ago, and then the last probably like 6 or so slides will discuss delivery, and we should come in under 10 minutes. I will be brief on just to catch up. So here we are on Newberry Street. This just next few slides just talks about our interior and how we've kind of organized it and just made it very friendly and comfortable for customers. We've worked very hard to, as we promised, to hire from the community, from the Roxbury-Dorchester area, and really dial in on women, people of color, members of other disproportionately impacted communities. We have been participants in the community since before we opened on Newberry Street, participating in Open Newberry and other events. Haley House is a group that we work with in the South End, working with and hiring folks who are reentering the workforce, formerly incarcerated, as well as working with them on different clothing drives and things like that. We actually, this was our first shirt that we've actually made for sale. And it was in honor of Pride. And we worked with the Boston Lesbian Gay Urban Foundation and donated $6 from each shirt. For Pride Month, we worked with this group right here, Queer and Cannabis, and they were actually participants with us at our Open Newberry 2 weeks ago. And again, like we promised when we first brought our application to you, we have been bringing small businesses, non-cannabis related businesses to our sales floor so that they can reap the benefits of the foot traffic and the disposable income that comes when you're located on a street like we are. I actually mentioned this yesterday, we actually have worked with a lot of Black and brown as well as women-owned businesses. This just happens to be the 2 pictures that we that made it into this presentation. But he is a senior on the left, so all groups are represented with Rooted In. Another thing with Rooted In, we were voted one of the best dispensaries in Boston by Boston.com, as well as Best of Boston 2024 as the best dispensary in Boston. So we're very excited about that. We have a unionized workforce with UFCW local 1445. When we'll talk about it when we get into the delivery discussion, but one of the things that we did when we were negotiating the union contract was negotiate a delivery premium for our drivers who will be part of the current Rooted In staff. We won't be hiring folks that are specifically delivery drivers. So the staff that we currently are currently employed or will be employed in the future will also be able to transition into delivery drivers when that's when necessary. All right, and now just jumping into the discussion about delivery. So one of the first things we thought of when we decided we wanted to bring delivery to the community was to make sure that we were not causing a negative impact as far as pollution is concerned, as far as engine noise is concerned. So we wanted to make sure that our fleet was all electric. So the 3 images you see here are just examples of what the vehicles would be, but we haven't chosen any vehicles at this time yet, but they will be an all-electric vehicle. We went so far as to get a charging station approved through Boston Landmarks because Newberry Street area is a historical district, so we do have a approved charging station that will be installed in the rear of our store. So the vehicles will be able to charge on site. And as you can see by looking at the slide, we'll have a fleet asset management software that'll allow us to deliver it efficiently. And like I said, we have on-site parking here on Newberry Street. But as we, hope to grow with additional vehicles, we will utilize parking that we currently use for our managers at Prudential or other parking garages. But that being said, we have an agreement with Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay to begin with one vehicle and then revisit the conversation with them directly if we, see the need to grow into additional vehicles. So we wouldn't go past one vehicle without first involving NAB in that conversation. And then just talking briefly about the location itself, right there on that picture on the left-hand side, you can see the two tandem parking spots that we do have in the rear of the building. And the picture to the right is just a view of top down of where we are. The red dot is, our location on Newberry Street, and then Hereford is to the left, perpendicular street, and then we can access the rear through a public alley. We can access the rear of the building through that public alley 430. I know part of the question is our proximity to other dispensaries. As you can see, we're in the buffer zone of ourselves because this is a separate license, but also more importantly, AIR, which is about 1,000 feet away on Wilson Street. I believe New Dia is actually outside of the buffer zone, half mile. They're in Fenway. Ember Gardens is a proposed dispensary, which is about 344 feet away. I don't know I don't know where they stand in the process. And then Cypress Tree Management, also on Boylston Street. Again, I'm not sure where they stand in the process. And then this just talks about, the fact that there's no K through 12 social services, et cetera, within that half mile. We are a residential commercial area. Where we are on Newberry Street is mainly commercial. There is residential behind us. The rear of the buildings of the condos and apartments on Com Ave are to the rear of us. And then public transportation, which, we are delivery, so it's less important, but because it's always good to know, we do have access to ample public transportation. Our building itself is ADA accessible. Again, as we are a co-located location, a lot of our existing security protocols from our recreational will now extend into the delivery portion, the courier portion of this license. But the things that we will have that are specific to delivery are 2 drivers, body cameras on each of those drivers, as well as cameras on the interior of the car that look at the product that's being transported, as well as looking at the drivers. The product in cash would be stored in secure locked cages, and there will be, GPS tracking at all times. Our goal is to be 100% cashless. Available technology in cannabis may not allow us to do that, but it is something that we're actively working on. Our preference is to not have any type of cash exchange, change, or what have you, on the street or at the door, I should say. But we'll see. That it's being 100% cashless is a goal, and we're trying to make that a reality. Diversity inclusion of our business itself. Again, we are co-located with the recreational, and the plan currently is to use our current staff to staff this delivery license. So what we've done previously at Rooted In is a carryover of what we plan on doing with this license as well. Currently, we have about 30 staff members. You can see the building itself is ADA compliant. We will not have a veteran's preference. We've talked about this before and the reasons why we wouldn't have a veteran preference, but we do have, we have been working with immigrant populations and working to get, all different types of disproportionately impacted groups in the door. And we've met those, as you can see, we've met those goals that we've set for ourselves. True. Then actually that's on this slide where you can see the goals that we've set and met. And as far as like wages, because we now have, an established history of about 18, 19 months, you can see that we do start at $20.50 per hour. $18.75 for the most entry level position, a greeter. But the majority of our folk, and that's only one person at this time, but the majority of our folks are starting at $20.50 as a bud tender or as an inventory specialist. And as mentioned previously, there's a premium for those staff members who are scheduled to be a delivery driver on a specific day. Whether or not they drive that day doesn't matter. If they're scheduled to be a delivery driver and we receive no delivery requests, they would still receive that delivery premium. As per the previous promises we made as far as profit sharing, this is something that we're working on with the staff. We haven't gotten to a point where we're successful enough to do a profit share, but it is something that we've said, and that's something that we plan on doing as we move into the future. Health benefits, dental, vision, those are items that are currently offered to full-time and part-time, employees, depending on their status. And again, this is something that I can't wait to be able to offer, the down payment assistance. We just haven't been able to, financially get there to responsibly, do this as well as continue to run our business. So once we are there, you guys will be the first ones to know. Community feedback. We have received a letter of support from the District 8 City Councilor, a non-opposition from State Rep Jay Livingstone, non-opposition from NAB, Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay, as well as a letter of support from the Back Bay Business Association. And as we love to do, we also did a campaign of folks who the raw data can be found, the raw data of, who supported us through the DocuSign link can be found in our file. But this is kind of like a breakdown of, where we've received support around the city. Our location is right there, so you can see that there is a confluence of support from around our location within the Back Bay, but also from other parts of the neighborhood. And the Back Bay, or where we are in the Back Bay on Newberry Street, is call it a transient location for lack of a better term. So we do get customers from all over the city. So it shouldn't be surprising that we're also receiving support from different parts of the city as well. But mainly that support is coming from the Back Bay. And with that, that ends the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Brian. We'll start with Chairwoman Joyce. Do you have any questions?
Just a few questions, and I apologize if they were in your presentation and I missed them. How many trips per day do you expect each driver to make?
Question. We have some estimates, but because it's something that we've never done before, it's hard to say. What we're estimating, especially to begin, is probably about 1 or 2 per hour. Just because it takes time to build capacity, it takes time to let people know that you actually have this as an option. So on average, we're open 13 hours per day. So I would say 25 to 26 trips per day. Again, because we will only have one car. When you think about driving from A to B in Boston, even if you're just going down the street to grab something and coming back, we probably won't be able to do any more than 4 to 5 trips per day. 4 to 5 trips per hour with one vehicle, as we stack the deliveries as best we can, and then plan for the return back to the store and fighting traffic in the city of Boston. So with one vehicle, as was the agreement with NAB, I don't foresee us doing any more than 5 trips per hour, which would then equate to, maybe 60 trips per day, if we're lucky, I would say.
And the courier driver will pull up in the back alley. Is that what it is?
The vehicle would be in the back alley, and that's where it would receive the products and the orders that will already be put together. Because again, the same staff that is working our fulfillment area currently is the same staff that would be fulfilling the orders that come in for delivery, and again, would be the same staff that would be packing the vehicle and driving it. So, we would have to upstaff a little bit based on where we are today, but essentially it would be the same group of folks who would be our bud tenders, or our fulfillment folks would be the same staff that would be our delivery folks as well.
Thank you. I have no other questions right now.
Commissioner Camacho, do you have any questions?
Yeah, first a comment. Very impressive presentation. I have a question regarding deliveries on certain occasions, such as Boston Marathon or let's say a sports celebration. Will you be operational in your delivery services during those occasions?
So we have the ability, this is going back to how it's been done since we've been on Newberry Street and probably for many, many years. That same, that public alley 430, that extends the length of Com Ave, Newberry Street, and things like that. There are typically cross streets that are that remain open. Normally for like the Boston Marathon, for example, it's usually like Berkeley Street. So you would actually have to start on the furthest way down of down towards the park on Berkeley Street, and then you would turn left onto one of those public alleys, and then that allows you to get all the way down. So it's a little bit more difficult, but even when the roads are closed, the city has recognized that folks who drive still need to get either to their homes or to their businesses. So there is still access to the rear of our building, even when special events are happening in the stores and the roads are closed.
Thank you.
So that's gonna be tricky, and we'll probably be able to do half the deliveries, because again, if we're fighting traffic on a normal day and then now fighting traffic on a marathon day, it's definitely more tricky, but it's not impossible to do those deliveries.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. So going back to the presentation, you talked about some of the promises you had made. Can you give me a sense of what your staff looks like now?
Yes. Well, I was questioning how much information I should share, and then I decided I won't
It's
share the
okay.
screen, but I'll just look at it myself.
Breakdown of your staff.
Hold on one second. All right, so our in-store staff consists of 5 managers and 18 staff. Of the managers, of the 5 managers, 4 are people of color, 2 are women. Of the line staff, and line staff, I mean like the bud tenders, our specialists, our greeters, our inventory specialists, as well as our security team. "15 are people of color."
15, you said?
15 are people of color out of 18. So 15 out of 18 are people of color. Thank you for letting me do that live. So yeah, 15 out of 18 are people of color. And as far as women, ten out of the 18 are women.
And for the new business, one of them will become a driver, and then you'll have to add further staff as you go?
No, so basically of the 18 people that are our current staff, we would essentially, internally certify them as drivers, and then they will become, on days where they're scheduled to drive, that's when they would get a delivery premium as far as their hourly rate.
Ah, so you would add a premium to it. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And then what I was saying is, as far as like staffing up, we have 18 folks now. If delivery is successful and it's something that we recognize needs to grow, and if it's determined that we might need a new car, that's when we would, or an additional car, I should say, that's when we would decide to upstaff. But even if we upstaffed, we wouldn't hire folks that are just drivers. They would be dual employees, where they would be drivers as well as bud tenders or inventory specialists or what have you.
Thank you.
And like I said, that was all negotiated when we worked on our union contract, which was ratified and signed in I think February. So anticipating that this was something that we were going to do, we thought forward with the union and worked collaboratively hand in hand with them, and worked out that delivery premium for those for the staff when they are driving.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Gandhi?
Thank you, Jasmine. Thanks so much, Brian. A couple of questions. Brian, can you tell me what is your role in the business?
I'm one of the founders. It's myself and Joanne Keith. We are related. We're married. And then Salman Chowdhury and Rokia Begum, another married couple. So the two of us as couples are founders. I also act as the chief operating officer of the business.
No, thank you. So my question is about, and thank you, Kathleen and Commissioner Joyce, for asking the question about the parking. So let me just clarify, the parking spot is in the back and the there's one parking spot with one car, and the agreement with NAB is for one vehicle. So you talked earlier about 60 trips per day, 4 or 5 times an hour. That seems a little high for me. So I guess the question I would have for you is, let's say this is really successful and you determine that because of your delivery radius, the routes, traffic, etc., you need another vehicle. How will you measure the success of this one vehicle and this one program, and make a determination of whether it's met your criteria or met your the goal? What goals do you have for success? And if there might be another request for an additional vehicle, how would you then make that determination?
Yeah, so no, that's a really good question, really good series of questions. So 60, I agree with you, is a lot. And like I said, with one vehicle, it would be a stretch for us to deliver to make 5 deliveries throughout the day, and then also return back to pick up additional deliveries and then to go back out and things like that. So no, it would absolutely be a stretch. I think to start, especially as we have a constricted catchment area to begin, it'll probably just be the Back Bay to begin. And then as we, learn more about the business, learn more about how to structure our day, we'll probably expand into other neighborhoods in the city. But I do believe that it'll probably be 1 to 3 deliveries per hour. And then as we become more efficient, we may be able to get 5, but 5 per hour will definitely be a stretch with one vehicle. As far as metrics as for success, and how will we know when it's time to speak to NAB about looking into an additional vehicle? I'd say that if we're to a point where we're letting our customers down as far as when we said we would have something to them, and if we're not able to meet those agreements as far as like the service level that we're promising, if we can't provide the level of service with one vehicle, that's when we know we've gotten to a point where we need to look into another vehicle. And that's when we would have that conversation with NAB and kind of like bring those metrics to them to say, we received this many because of the success of what we're doing, and we were only able to fulfill this many on time. But if we were able to duplicate our efforts, we would then be able to fulfill all of the orders or requests that came to us. So we would bring that data to them and work with them to bring this to the community the right way. And like I said in the presentation, and maybe actually, yeah, I did say it, the Prudential Garage or the other garages in the area is where we could also house the vehicles, because the vehicles don't need to be housed on site. As long as they don't have cannabis in them, they can be housed off site, and then brought to the store, parked in the spot to do pickups. And then when that vehicle is done, its rotation for the day, it can go back to being stored in one of the offsite garages. And we do, and just to clarify, we have two spots, but they are tandem spots. So as you know, in the city, tandem parking is common, especially in like, Back Bay, Beacon Hill, and areas where it is, very tight.
Thank you. That's super helpful. I guess my point here is traffic in that location is can be quite challenging. And I would think that more vehicles would result in less trips, therefore less traffic and congestion. So I would just kind of offer that as an opinion. And then the last question is, do you also service locations outside of Boston? So Cambridge, across the river, et cetera, those would also be in the catchment area, correct?
To start, we're going to start small with just servicing the Back Bay, and then again, as we learn more, as we get more trips and deliveries under our belt and more experience, that's when we'll branch out. The soft planning that we've done is it would make more sense for us to stay in Boston to begin. Go to Roxbury, go to the South End, go to South Boston, kind of like the areas, or even downtown Boston, the areas that touch our current neighborhood. Cambridge also touches if you move the river out of the way, but we would probably stay in Boston, but we would have the ability to do deliveries elsewhere. But it needs to make sense for again, traffic and travel times and things like that. So those are all the things that we're trying to take into consideration before we even start. And so without having even done our first delivery, we're focusing on, Back Bay to begin, and then branching out within Boston as we grow, and then servicing other neighborhoods as it makes sense for us. I said neighborhoods, servicing other cities and towns as it makes sense for us.
Super helpful. Thank you so much. No other questions.
Commissioner Soto?
Thanks, Jasmine. Hi, Brian. Well, first of all, thank you for the clarity and thoroughness of your presentation. It was very helpful in really understanding it. My question, and this is sort of dovetailing on Commissioner Gandhi's questions, if you could just help walk us through, and it could be a very simple answer, but what was the thought process in terms of the hours of operation?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, when Jasmine read the hours, I recognized that, per the regulations, that does need to be updated just a little bit on our side, because the CCC does, require like a 9 p.m. shut off, as far as when your last delivery needs to be out the door or in the customer's hand. But the hours that were read essentially are in alignment with the hours of our current adult use recreational. So our adult use recreational currently is Monday through Friday. It's actually Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., but we're only open on 11 to 11 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday. Monday and Tuesday currently we still close at 10, and then Sunday we close at 9. Although I don't remember if we have I think we have approval till 11 on Sunday as well, but currently we close at 9. So the hours that were read are just hours that are in alignment to our current recreational license.
And just to clarify, Commissioner Soto, the application overview that was submitted to the board did indicate Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., which would be within the allowed CCC delivery period. So that's if there was some transfiguration by accident on the agenda, the hours should be 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Sunday.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, I was just trying to think about how congested certain times of the day can be in particular, and whether there isn't some way to consider that. But no, I appreciate the answer, and I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes, Mr. Keith, what is your plan for your security measures for your drivers? What will you be outfitting them with?
I mean, that's a good question, and I think the CCC only allows us to do so much. We can't carry brass knucks, we can't carry mace, like they really aren't allowed to have anything other than their body cameras and themselves. I would think, just looking back from today through, when delivery first started, I can't say that there have been any major incidences with, delivery drivers, whether Boston or elsewhere, having any type of incidents. I'm sure there have been some, but I don't know of any major incidences myself. But that being said, they're allowed to carry the body camera and themselves. And, there's no level of offensive or defensive, I guess, weaponry or armaments that they're allowed to carry.
Well, that really wasn't what I meant. I meant the body cameras. And you will have more than one drive, because you talk about the incentive for whoever's in the rotation to drive on those days. So you will have more than one drive. There will be two people, right?
We're going to align our driver amount to the CCC regulations. So right now it is two drivers and we'll have two drivers. If the rules change and it allows for one driver, we'll allow for one driver, or we'll only require one driver.
Okay, and what type of locked case or something will the product be carried in? Is there something specific? Does that have to have a lock, or?
That's going to be a sealed container that's bolted to the vehicle itself, and that is also has its own independent locking system. So it's essentially a safe that would be in the rear of the car that will contain the cannabis products that are only manifested. So we won't carry items in the vehicle that don't have a confirmed destination. So anything that's in the vehicle will be what they call manifested to an end user. So that's all that will ever be in the vehicles. There, we won't be able to carry pre-rolls or eighths that hopefully someone calls and requests this and then we bring it to them. We can only have items in the car that have a destination.
Okay, and my last statement question, there will be no shrink wrapped advertising on these vehicles, will there? No.
Negative. No, so it's going to be very plain, nondescript vehicle. Basic colors, nothing, out of this world, just regular passenger vehicles. We're not using delivery vans, just because, just looking at the math, passenger vehicles are more economical for us. And I think the limit is like $10,000 of product that we're allowed to have in the vehicle. And we will never have that much product because of, just the limitations of how many deliveries we can do in an hour or in a rotation. It just wouldn't make sense to have more probably than $1,000 in the trunk. So yeah, it would be a very basically colored vehicle.
Okay, that was it. I just wanted to, impress on the security for your drivers and make sure there was at least two people together in the vehicle. So
Yes.
thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thank you. And sorry about misunderstanding the question.
Any other further questions, comments from the board members? All right, we'll move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This time, the Mayor's Office like to defer to the judgment of this board. Can testify that ONS hosted a community meeting on May 23rd, which was lightly attended. Prior to that meeting, the applicant had reached out to NAB, the local civic association for that area, which had voted that they were not opposed to this proposal. After the meeting, prior to the meeting, we did hear from a resident that was unable to attend, who expressed concerns regarding the number of trips that would be taken during the day and the use of the public alley to the rear, which is a one-way. That resident had expressed concerns that this could lead to an increase of traffic it might be unsafe, and had requested that a independent body do a traffic study to look at the number of trips that would be generated from this proposal. With that, that's the information we have at this time. We'd like to defer to the board. Thank you.
Let me make one point of clarity. My apologies.
Go ahead, Brian.
I just, thank you. When I said 60 deliveries, I just wanted to be clear that it's not 60 like one-way trips. It's, like 5 deliveries in one trip where it would leave, where the vehicle would leave once and then come back, and then let's say do another 5. So it would only be going out like once to make that trip in that hour and drop off 5 items. So I just want to be clear that it's not like leaving 60 times and then coming back 60 times for 120 trips. I just wanted to be clear that it's like, we're going to do our best to be efficient and stack as many deliveries, so that when the vehicle's out, it's making those deliveries and then coming back, loading up, and then making additional deliveries.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Is there any other elected officials or their representatives that would like to speak on this matter? All right, we'll move to those that signed up to testify. Luke?
Yes, the first one is Josephine Hensley.
Thank you. I was just trying to unmute. I thank you for the Boston Cannabis Board members for this opportunity for public comment. I did send in some public comment in May, but as an abutter, I oppose the granting of a license for cannabis delivery out of Public Alley 430 behind 331 Newbury. The scale of the additional traffic in Public Alley 430 is a major concern. And I requested that a traffic study by a qualified impartial evaluator be conducted prior to any potential approval of a marijuana delivery service. An unlimited number of vehicle trips behind 331 Newbury Street would worsen traffic in Public Alley 430, which is also already very tight and at some points in the day difficult to use. And it would worsen traffic on Commonwealth, Hereford, Newbury Streets, and on Massachusetts Avenue in that area. The number of additional delivery vehicle trips to and from the dispensary during all hours of operation is unknown, with a high potential for adverse impacts on the surrounding property owners abutting Public Alley 430 and facing onto the 300 blocks of Commonwealth and Newbury Streets and nearby streets. I would ask that the board consider that Public Alley 430 has a one-way entrance off of Hereford Street. Cars can then exit the alley via Hereford or one way onto Massachusetts Avenue, driving up a steep incline and into heavy traffic. Marijuana delivery cars exiting from Hereford Street would be blocking the alley for incoming cars of owners or outgoing cars of owners of residential parking spaces in 430. This happens frequently enough without adding an unknown number and unlimited number of vehicle trips for the proposed cannabis delivery service entering and exiting Public Alley 430 all day long. In May, I was told that the proponents would be using one vehicle, anticipating around 20 or 30 orders of a day, which could result in 8 to 10 trips per day. And today I've heard that that number's been revised up to 60. And they also expressed at that time that they were hoping to increase the numbers. And I believe that 8 to 10 delivery trips per day was an inaccurately low estimate. I know that once a marijuana delivery license is approved, there seems to be no enforcement mechanism in place to restrict the number of vehicle trips to that 8 to 10 per day, or whatever a reasonable number might be. Cannabis delivery companies, if you look at those that are operating, are generally looking for many more trips per day in order to.
Ms. Josephine, that is your 2 minutes. Luke, did anyone else sign up to testify?
Yes, we have Jack Kensley.
Hi, my name is Jack Kensla. I'm with the United Food and Commercial Workers, who represent the workers that are rooted in. We're in support of this plan. As Mr. Keith indicated, there's a lot of great benefits, just on its own that will be brought to the workers at this facility in terms of getting the additional training and the stipend for being on call for delivery, which we think would be a good impact. And then also, the increase in hours scheduled across the dispensary that the added business would bring in, and also their added capacity to be able to implement some of the profit sharing and home ownership assistance programs. We've had a very good relationship with the employers so far, and believe that this could have a very beneficial impact for the workers, and continue to kind of send the message that working union in Boston, and especially in the cannabis industry, can be very beneficial. And I did also want to touch the healthcare plan that he mentioned is part of our union healthcare plan. So it would, the increase in staffing levels would benefit the union healthcare fund and our retirement plan. So, we think that there are some benefits to the community, but we also believe that this will be a really positive thing for our union workforce in the facility, and their ability to continue to advance in the company and continue to take home fair wages and, competitive and even above competitive wages for the industry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Luke, is there anyone else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to testify on this matter?
Jasmine, if I may, I just would like to respond to one of the comments, just to say that the 8 to 10 estimated trips today still holds consistent with the testimony you heard today from Mr. Keith. Mr. Keith clarified his comments that they would be within those trips. There would be, could be upwards of 60, as he just explained. So that's not inconsistent with what we presented today. The other thing I'd say is that I want to make sure the board understands, this is very important. A courier license is not a delivery license. A delivery license would be like you could deliver multiple dispensaries. A courier license, this license that we're applying for, is only allows Rooted In to deliver their product to individuals. There are no other stores or outfits. This is not creating an Uber situation where multiple entities can be brought into this delivery circle. It's only a delivery directly from Rooted In to its own customers, and that's it. And so for that reason, it's a much lighter footprint, if you will, than capital D delivery that people might be thinking. I want to make sure that that was clear, because there are different delivery licenses, and the other licenses would force us to come back to this board to try to seek, which we're not trying to do here, and we won't try to do. I won't want to say never, but it's really not the intent. The intent here is to provide our own customers with delivery, and that's what this is. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Ross. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? All right, seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Those are all the transactional matters before the board today. The board's voting meeting will take place next Wednesday, July 24th at 1 p.m. Again, the record will be kept open until next Tuesday, July 23rd at 5 p.m. We will now move on to our informational hearing. The board is holding an informational hearing to discuss certain conditions that the BCB has placed on licensed premises located within the downtown Boston Business Improvement District. I believe we have Michael Nichols from the Downtown Bid, who's the president. We're going to start with him and then move to Patriot Care and then Pure Oasis, who have the conditions on their license. Mr. Nichols, if you would like to start with opening remarks, and then we'll move to questions, comments from the board members.
Sure. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you to the chair and the commission for the invitation to be here today. I am here at the invitation of the commission. In response to an inquiry made of the bid, I'm here to reconfirm our position on license restrictions. And I begin by noting that the bid's position on all cannabis matters within the boundaries of the bid is held pursuant to a policy that was developed by our board years ago and administered and communicated by staff. It has gone largely unchanged since initially being implemented, and it reflects that the license restrictions sought by the bid have been common among every applicant that has sought to open a cannabis establishment downtown. Thus far, to my knowledge, every applicant who has sought a license to operate a cannabis establishment within the downtown bid has agreed to the license restrictions, including those who were ultimately not approved for a license. This includes the 2 establishments that are open in the bid today, Patriot Care, doing business as Cannabis, and Pure Oasis. Both entities willingly committed numerous times prior to the opening of their business to abide by certain license restrictions sought by the bid in order to ensure that the businesses become positive contributors downtown, and the licensing board conditioned approvals on those commitments. As many on the board likely know, the bid is an organization that's created by the commercial property owners downtown to represent the entire business community. Commercial property owners, office tenants, retail tenants, small businesses, and their various employees. We also work to consider how downtown functions for residents, tourists, theater patrons, restaurant diners, and the broader ecosystem of those who spend time downtown. We have a 33-member board, and on the topic of cannabis, we put together a committee that was made up of board and non-board stakeholders within the downtown to develop policy for the organization on dealing with the requests to place cannabis businesses in downtown storefronts. From that group came our existing policy of seeking certain license restrictions on cannabis businesses who seek to operate in the downtown. However, as that policy was initially being developed, the executive committee of the BID's board of directors met with Patriot Care, now Cannabis, in 2018 and 2019 regarding its desire for recreational cannabis sales downtown after previously serving only a medical need audience. When the BID shared the organization's concerns about the potential impacts on existing businesses in the downtown, it was Patriot Care who suggested a ban on pre-rolls as a condition of being able to sell other cannabis products to recreational consumers. Thereafter, the BID sought the ban on pre-rolls and other license restrictions in order to limit the potential negative effects of the cannabis business being open in the very dense downtown area. Policies of the BID generally are often considered at the staff and board committee or subcommittee level, and depending on the topic may also receive a vote of the full board. The staff is typically tasked with executing or enforcing BID policies, and also with sourcing for the board's consideration any matter where a policy change is warranted. We would typically poll members and often other downtown stakeholders and the public prior to changing the organization's view on an important policy topic. At the time that the BID's license restrictions were developed, there was no opposition from any member of our organization or stakeholder within the downtown to the restrictions. And most importantly, every cannabis license applicant has readily committed to those restrictions as a condition of obtaining a downtown license. As far as we can now tell, one of the two retailers who have obtained licenses downtown and chosen to open a business here has abided by the restrictions throughout the time that they've operated downtown, and the other has violated at least two of the primary restrictions nearly every day since they opened for business last year. The three primary license restrictions that are most discussed are restrictions on the hours of sale, a minimum sales price, and a prohibition on selling single-use smokable pre-rolls. Again, in all cases, both Cannabis and Pure Oasis committed to these restrictions as a condition of operating in the downtown. In response to a request from the licensing board at a hearing in July of 2023, the BID has spent time reevaluating the license restrictions as a good faith gesture to evolve the organization's view relative to the additional information that has been gained by the two businesses being currently open and operating within the neighborhood. We committed to this review on the record at that meeting, and we've spent time analyzing the three primary restrictions with numerous conversations at the board and staff level and through conversations with key stakeholders downtown, including both cannabis businesses. Ultimately, we've shared on the record at subsequent licensing board hearings in 2023 and now in 2024 that the BID could see a path toward eliminating the minimum sales price and extending the hours of operation for the businesses, but that the limitation on pre-rolls remains directly connected to preventing negative behaviors in the neighborhood. We recently polled more than 24 adjacent property owners and 10 businesses in July of 2024. Those who've responded have reported increases in negative impacts from the outdoor use of marijuana products adjacent to their operating businesses. Our limitation on pre-rolls exists as a significant emphasis remains on developing the future trajectory of downtown as a destination-worthy shopping and office district, a place where families and visitors of all ages from all over the world feel welcomed, where the streets and sidewalks are clean and free from retail trash, where offices can be converted to residential units that offer a positive quality of life, and where unwanted smells don't negatively impact those increasingly gathering to enjoy art and programming, and don't negatively impact those with significant health challenges. According to the website of at least one cannabis retailer outside of Boston, one of the other drawbacks to pre-rolls is environmental. Pre-rolled joints and blunts, quote, pre-rolled joints and blunts do create more waste, and if they're not disposed of properly, they can cause harm to the environment. This is just but one of additional concern we have about pre-rolls. But to state the BID's view on the issue flatly, the BID does remain opposed to pre-rolls and committed to the agreements that we reached with both Cannabis and Pure Oasis on the topic. And I appreciate the invitation to be heard today.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Chairwoman Joyce?
Thanks for joining us again, Mr. Nichols. Would one of the side effects you're talking about also be like litter? You mentioned smells, but is it litter?
Right. Litter, waste are probably the two primary issues that we do observe downtown.
Okay. How do you respond to other licensed premises, cannabis establishments just outside the bid that are allowed to sell pre-rolls? Has that impacted the quality of life issues within the bid?
Very likely, but we don't have any jurisdiction in that area, and so it is absolutely fair to suggest that if someone were to be consuming a smokable cannabis product in the downtown bid area today, we would very likely not know where it came from. However, the issues that have been reported to us have been proximate to the two businesses that are open in the area, but I can't say, you know, with any degree of confidence exactly where a product comes from.
Okay, and you're stating today that the idea to voluntarily not sell pre-rolls from cannabis to Patriot Care came to you from Patriot Care. That was their idea.
That's right. So that was in a meeting with them and our executive committee back in either 2018 or 2019. It was late 2018 or early 2019. That was our first open and operating business within the downtown, I think originally as medical and then converted recreational. So the issue became ripe through the conversations with them at that time, and the policies that were developed by our organization emerged out of those conversations.
Okay. Thanks very much for joining us. I don't have any other questions at this time for you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Camacho?
I don't have any questions.
All right, Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. Mr. Nichols, quick couple of questions. First one, how is the bid downtown different than, for instance, we just heard this business on Newberry Street, commercially and residential, sort of same, right? They have density, they have commercial, they have residential. How is it different? Like they can sell pre-rolls in that area, but they can't downtown. Like how are the two areas basically different?
Yeah, all I might start with an answer to your question, Commissioner, is that our bid does not have jurisdiction outside of the downtown. And so I think in time, it is very likely that there will be additional business improvement districts in Boston that look at the issues that might impact their neighborhood in a similar fashion to the way we do. Bids, there are more than 1,000 bids in America. They're in most major city downtowns, and in most major cities, there are more bids than in Boston, where there are just a handful today, including there's one currently trying to form in the Back Bay. In the event that that was in place, they might look at the issue in a similar fashion to the way we do. But I think it's perhaps without question that the downtown, the formal business improvement district downtown that we serve, is the densest part of Boston. It has the densest buildings. It has the densest array of tourists, visitors, residents of any neighborhood. That's not to suggest that Back Bay and other places aren't dense. So I think we only truly look at the world through the way it impacts the folks that spend time within, the downtown bid area. I can't speak to necessarily the issues in the Back Bay.
Yeah. And downtown, because I walk through there sometimes, already smells like cannabis.
I didn't hear the end. Already smells.
I said downtown in some ways already you smell cannabis because it's quote unquote legal, right? In the rest of Boston. So people already smoke downtown. They're already, all through the Common and all over. So there's already, in a sense, an issue, which I understand you talk about, like the smells and the, that kind of thing. You think it would be so greatly impacted if these businesses, because they have to maintain their business, sell pre-rolls? Like what would the impact be greater on the businesses themselves with their inability to sell pre-rolls, or just on the smells and sights and sounds of downtown? Who has the greater impact here? I think the businesses would really struggle because that is a major part of their business, right? Selling pre-rolls. And at least I know one of them is minority business. So did you all consider that, like in terms of impact?
Yep, there were a couple questions in there. I'll try to address them both. I'll go maybe in reverse order. We are incredibly mindful of and supportive of minority businesses downtown, including the cannabis businesses. I think that is an area of emphasis for our organization. I think we want to be engaged in a conversation about how to make every business, including and perhaps especially those types of businesses, successful in the downtown. It's why since July of 2023 and the request from this commission, we have been willing to engage in a productive conversation with, in particular, Pure Oasis, but we remain open to conversations with both businesses. I think whether or not the negative impact that that these products are very likely having within the 100-acre bid area, and whether that outweighs the impact on the two businesses is one that is best for the commission. I would just say that for the questions that are being asked of me and us and in our organization, the answer is yes. We have members, we have tenant businesses, Class A and B office buildings, first floor retail tenants, hotels, historic sites, and others who have reported to our organization that since in particular legalization of marijuana more broadly, but in specific, since two businesses have been open and operating within the bid district, they have observed an increase in negative effects from specifically smokable forms of cannabis. And so I'm here at least to give voice to that is the feedback that we've received to our organization.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Commissioner Gandhi?
Thank you, Joyce. I think I'll just want to double down a little bit on that question, which is we have a 33-member board, and there's a group that has created this policy. So philosophically, if the policies of the board result in a business not being able to operate, how does the board look at that? Which is due to its policies, the business cannot operate and may actually not be able to survive. What is the board, the kind of the sub board, and then the board itself? What is your view on that? And how do you?
Very fair question, Commissioner. I can be honest and say I don't know the first thing about running a cannabis business. I don't understand the economics, the finances. I believe this commission in the past has asked for information on this topic to be able to make an informed decision, but I'm not familiar with any data that suggests whether or not this specific issue is the difference between a business being successful or not. I think there's an analogy to liquor stores being asked not to sell certain malt products or nips within certain areas of the city as a condition of being to operate and still able to sell their core product. In at least one past life, I was the president of a neighborhood association within the city and got to see a number of those arrangements where someone would propose to bring a package store, a licensed business, a regulated business, not unlike cannabis, into the neighborhood. And as a condition of being able to open that business, committed to not sell certain products that for the same sort of trash reasons or other quality of life impacts was perceived to have a potential negative impact on the neighborhood. Those businesses typically did not come back then after the fact and say, we in good faith agreed to not sell those products, but now in fact that's the difference between our business succeeding and not. I don't know how to run a liquor store and I don't know how to run a cannabis business, so I can't tell you for sure whether what you might be hearing is true and honest, that the sale of pre-rolls is fundamental to the ability of a cannabis business to be successful. If it was, it would surprise me that the first of the two open businesses in the downtown actually put forth the proposal that they could live without pre-rolls as a condition of having recreational marijuana sales within the downtown area, and that presumably they perceived all remaining products available to them to be enough to be financially successful within the downtown. So I can't in good faith answer your question whether or not it's clear that that this is the issue that keeps the business from being open and operating successfully. I don't have enough information to know that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Commissioner Soto?
Thanks, Jasmine. I wanted to just kind of zoom in on those concerns and things that you've heard from your bid members or businesses. I think it would be helpful because it does sometimes feel like a little bit of a specter where it's like, well, we're hearing this from all these places, and I don't doubt the veracity necessarily, but I also can't see it right? That like I don't have something tangible to point to. So I think it would be really helpful to be able to get a sense of where the concerns you're hearing from, what corners or blocks are they most often? What sort of specifically is it an odor issue? Is it a litter issue? Is it something else? I just feel like that it'd be helpful to have something tangible to then point to and say, oh wow, I get it, right? Versus a little bit more of the hearsay kind of, I'm hearing it from this person, this person, this person, which it could absolutely be true and certainly, would be concerning, but with absent something to point to, I think it's a little harder to sort of be able to kind of flatly say this is a problem, I guess is where I'm going with that. So is there something that you can point to, or do you have any tracking mechanism or anything that you're working on?
Yeah, Commissioner Soto, it's a very, very fair point. We are here today in response to a request from the commission to be here. We weren't sort of necessarily asked to pull any specific information for this. We do track what our members ask us, to address or quality of life issues they face. In response to today's request to be here, we did poll roughly 24 businesses within the area of the 2 open cannabis establishments. So we did not poll throughout our 100-acre, 34-block area of downtown. It was probably less than 25 properties because it was the combination of the property and the retail businesses that were in operation within those buildings. So it was probably something like a dozen operational businesses or commercial properties within the geographic area around these businesses. I certainly could, I think, with their permission, aggregate their specific feedback and share it with the commission. Again, we're here in response to a request to be here. So I wouldn't say that there's been an outcry on this issue. The bid did not initiate this conversation. We are not seeking, sort of any punitive action on our 2, cannabis businesses at this time. But if asked the question about the existing license restrictions, as we've been asked, I think consistent with the testimony I began with today, we understand that there are a number of different ways where those businesses can be successful. We believe additional hours of operation, if desired, or the elimination of the minimum sales price, if desired, could be additional tools that help them succeed. And we, in good faith, in response to requests from this commission, have been willing to work our organization in the direction where those policies could be achieved. We do continue to think that the ban on pre-rolls is linked to policy objectives within the downtown that are important to us.
I appreciate that, and just to be clear, I also just want to be clear that I don't want to sound like I'm minimizing those concerns that have been raised either, right? I just wanted to sort of fair play, be able to understand
Absolutely.
the concentration and consistency with which you are hearing those concerns. So with that, I'm good. Thank you, Jasmine.
Commissioner Holmes?
No, I have no questions. Everybody touched on everything. Thank you.
Commissioner Gandhi, you had another question?
Yes, sorry. Thanks so much. And thank you so much, Mr. Nichols, for appearing today. I just have one more question. What is the vacancy rate in the bid, and how and kind of do you have some statistics on how many storefronts are vacant right now, and what the bid's philosophy and policies on vacant storefronts?
Absolutely, yeah. Office space is about 28% vacant throughout the bid district. Retail space is, we had about 95 vacancies a year ago. We have 70 today. In combination with the city, we've been very aggressive about trying to sign up new businesses to come into the downtown, as there is something of an equilibrium, I think, that has been achieved within the downtown environment now post-COVID to have an understanding of what foot traffic looks like. And we're really pleased that we've had a pretty strong lease up over the last year that's eliminated about 25% of the vacant retail space within the downtown. There are still a couple of pockets where we're struggling, Winter Street, Tremont Street, Bromfield Street, but in most of the rest of the bid, retail leasing has been a positive story. We have more restaurants open in the bid today than we did a year ago. More restaurants open, well, both than we had a year ago and than we had 5 years ago. One of the real success stories in the downtown is that there are more people that are choosing to come and dine and spend time in the downtown than even what we had 5 years ago. We're working with the city on the SPACE program, the Supporting Pandemic Affected Community Enterprises program, to fund predominantly BIPOC businesses to come into the neighborhood that freshens the retail environment within the downtown compared to where we were, prior to the pandemic. So I think there's a pretty successful and aggressive campaign being waged right now to freshen the retail environment, to fill vacant retail, and to activate, in a variety of different ways, from pop-ups to activations. We're currently working with the city about the bid ourselves taking over a vacant retail space as a method of bringing added safety into an area where we believe it would be important to have a broader presence rather than a vacant storefront. So it is something that I think we're working really hard at this moment. And actually, one last sort of positive is that Washington Street, our major retail thoroughfare, is down to just 3 vacancies in the entirety of that area, other than I think where there's one development project cited. There are just 3 vacancies on the entirety of the corridor on Washington Street between Chinatown and City Hall Plaza. And that's taken a lot of work coming out of the pandemic. And we believe that there's more and more reasons to be in the downtown for sort of shopping and dining and theater and student and all of that than there have been in quite some time.
No, thank you. First, great acronym, SPACE. And second, so would it be fair to say that the downtown bid does everything it possibly can to keep retail businesses that are in the bid viable and able to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nuanced conversation. We absolutely want businesses who are here to be able to succeed. We also want the businesses that are here to not have any negative impact on other surrounding healthy businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions for Mr. Nichols from the board members? All right, thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you all.
Next, we'll hear from Patriot Care, doing business as Cannabis. Who's present?
I'll start up, thanks. And then I'll turn it over to my colleague, Kelly. Good afternoon, Chair Joyce, members of the board and BCB staff. I appreciate the opportunity to present here in this informational session, and we recognize that the BCB has the final authority over operating conditions throughout Boston. So we really appreciate the time and the attention that you're giving us. My name is Dan Delaney. I own and operate the Delaney Policy Group. Delaney Policy Group is the only state certified MBE lobbying firm in Massachusetts. I live and I work in the city of Boston. We've worked closely with Patriot Care since the inception of regulated cannabis in Massachusetts, starting with marijuana for medical use in 2013. Patriot Care has been working with the city of Boston since 2015 across 3 administrations in both medical and adult use markets. We were the very first dispensary to open in Boston in August of 2016. I think that history is important as the board considers the unique conditions that have been placed on marijuana establishments within the downtown Boston Business Improvement District. Patriot Care is well known to the city. We've had more community meetings in the city of Boston than any other licensee. We have been consistently transparent and compliant with the requirements of the city of Boston, and we've gone out of our way to meet or exceed the community's expectations. That's why we've struggled to understand why both the rules and the enforcement around products we're allowed to sell are so different than those of other licensees in the city, including those within our half-mile buffer. The limits on basket size and pre-roll sales may have been prudent when we initially began adult use sales. Much was unknown at the time. Time has shown, however, that this is a solution really in search of a problem. I think there's good reason to put them aside in the same way that it was appropriate to put the appointment-only rules aside after 6 months of operation. Respectfully, I would push back on the claim that we proposed the pre-roll restriction. We negotiated in good faith with the downtown bid. We, as is evidence in our agreement with the bid, we came to an agreement on not having pre-roll sales and the limited basket size, but we also built into the agreement a mechanism that said that if we needed to change things, or if we wanted the BCB to reconsider certain conditions, we had a mechanism to give the bid notice in advance so that we could have an open and transparent conversation. And that's what I hope this is a continuing part of. My colleague Kelly Rivera will walk you through our operations concerns and requests. I respectfully urge you to consider this with fresh eyes and with a view towards the current operating conditions. Thank you.
Kelly, are you?
I think Kelly's gonna pick up from here.
Hey, yes, I'm just trying to share the slide deck.
Oh.
Can you see the slide?
No. Yep, we can.
Do you see this now?
Mhm.
Do you see this now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Great. Well, good afternoon. My name is Kelly Rivera. I serve as both Senior Counsel and Vice President of Corporate Affairs for Patriot Care, which conducts its business as Cannabis at 21 Milk Street in Boston. I'm a former longtime resident of Boston. I'm also a Suffolk Law graduate, and I'm a registered medical cannabis patient customer at Cannabis in Boston. So I'm very familiar with the downtown crossing area from my professional, academic, and personal background. So I come here as local and understanding that there's a lot of conditions and concerns by the bid. And we're hoping that you can hear our request today and potentially engage in a policy change here. So I'm going to the next slide. All right. So as Dan stated, Cannabis was honored to be the first cannabis business licensed by the city of Boston. Cannabis opened its Boston dispensary for medical sales about 8 years ago in August 2016, and then expanded its license dispensing operations to include adult use sales in November 2021. We maintain support from Councillor Flynn and maintain good relationships with our neighbors in Boston. Additionally, due to Cannabis' long-term and documented history of compliance with all state and local regulations, Cannabis maintains an ongoing collaborative relationship with the Cannabis Control Commission. In fact, the CCC coordinates several dispensary tours of our Boston Cannabis dispensary to visiting state cannabis regulators. They've done that over the years, using Cannabis in Boston as a model operator to demonstrate to new regulators how a compliant, co-located medical adult use dispensary can operate. Last summer, for example, we provided such tours to a delegation from Hawaii, including the Attorney General's office and the Medical Cannabis Commissioner, where we shared our subject matter expertise from a perspective of a compliant cannabis operator. So we are able to assist the CCC in this manner because of how skilled, trained, and passionate our employees are in Boston. So currently we have 18 employees in Boston, where our 2-floor dispensary was converted from a vacant bank. Cannabis is committed to hiring local talent and having a diverse workforce. Of our employees in Boston, we're proud that more than 40% of our employees are persons of color, which include our general manager. And Cannabis plans to expand its number of employees should the Boston Cannabis Board lift conditions on cannabis license as it impacts our survivability as a business. Okay. Since November 2021, when Cannabis expanded its operations to include adult use retail sales, we have a documented history of compliance with the 7 conditions placed on our license from the Boston Cannabis Board. Very proud to place a high priority on compliance, even if we disagree or do not understand conditions. The compliance is a strong priority that the whole company places. So as enumerated on the slide, cannabis adult use sales were limited originally to appointment only for the first 6 months, and there were no issues with lines forming outside the dispensary. That condition has been no longer needed since we've been open now for several years. The BCB also prohibited cannabis from selling pre-rolled products to adult use consumers, and all adult use consumers are required to make a purchase of at least $35. We're also required to provide educational cards with each purchase and maintain a triple check system for IDs and operate within specific business hours. We also notify the bid of changes in our management staff. And again, I want to emphasize that we maintain an unblemished record of compliance with these conditions. So our purpose today at this hearing is—
Sorry to interrupt, Kelly. The slides aren't advancing. I think you might be on a different presentation. We're still on the first slide.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Let me— Okay, apologies for that. Is this correct now?
And
Are
we
you
see-
okay with that if I just go through this as is?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Okay, apologies for that. Okay, I've actually gone through here. This is the slide we were at. This is describing our employees, if you'd like to look at this slide as well. It just shows the statistics and the number of employees that we have in Boston currently. And then I apologize again for not having this out. I thought it was tracking as I was speaking, but these are just a list of all of the 7 conditions that we maintain compliance with. These are pulled directly from our license. We didn't summarize or anything. This is verbatim from our license. Can I begin here now? Are we up current on the slides? Okay, great. And again, sorry about that. So our purpose here today at this hearing is to address 2 of those conditions and to request the removal of those conditions on our BCB license, as we believe they're unnecessary, discriminatory, and inequitable, especially in comparison to other BCB licensed businesses and how the BCB regulates those other businesses throughout the city of Boston. The 2 conditions we request removal are of the requirement for adult use purchases to be at least $35 and the prohibition on the sale of pre-rolled products to adult use consumers. We understand that the BCB placed these conditions on our license in 2021 to mitigate fears that individuals will be purchasing low-cost pre-rolls and smoking those products within the downtown Boston Improvement District. However, these conditions are discriminatory and are essentially a solution looking for a problem that has not come to fruition since 2021 when these license conditions were originally placed. So cannabis continually seeks to serve our Boston diverse community, but we're unable to serve low-income consumers due to the requirement that all purchases must be $35 in price. As shown in this slide here, the 2022 census found that the median income for residents in Boston was about $45,000, which equates to an hourly income of $20 an hour. This data demonstrates again how a $35 minimum purchase limit is discriminatory towards many Boston residents. And that's something that's out of Boston cannabis control that we disagree with, and we'd love to serve the wider and diverse Boston population. We believe that this condition on the $35 serves no legitimate purpose. Additionally, due to federal banking restrictions, all cannabis products across the country must be purchased in cash by consumers who either need to have, under this condition must come with $35 cash in hand, or they must use an on-site ATM that includes a certain ATM vendor fee that's standard across. So most consumers do not have $35 in cash. That's just that, like, economy has changed. People do not have that. And it's an additional expense if you're required to go in and then spend the additional fee on that. So we just want to point out too that the $35 really limits our ability to serve this community. As you can see in this chart, there's true demand from the adult use consumers for pre-rolled products and lower price basket sizes. At Cannabis, 2 other dispensaries in Massachusetts, located in Lowell and in Greenfield, 28% of our sales are under $35. So we know that roughly a quarter of all of our adult use consumers are looking to make a smaller purchase than we are actually able to sell in Boston. By removing this $35 purchase condition, Cannabis in Boston will be able to serve a wider customer base, including low-income consumers. And then here on the next slide, we would like to show you what a $35 purchase looks like at Cannabis that's not a pre-roll. So this limitation on $35 is not just for pre-rolls, even though we understand that originally it was tied together, the reason for both of those conditions. However, the market has changed and a lot of innovation has happened in the market, which we're happy to be able to sell a wide variety of products. So Cannabis Boston adult use menu currently includes many products under $35 in all product categories, such as edibles, flowers, vapes, extracts, tinctures, and more. Here we provide an example of 4 products under $35 that are not pre-rolls that we're not able to sell due to the $35 purchase requirement. Those include an $18 edible from the brand Betty's Eddies, a $24 topical cream that a customer may want to treat their pain. It's just a cream that you rub onto like your elbow or whatever ailment you have. A $30 package of edibles that may help a consumer sleep better. This brand here specifically, the Social Equity brand too, and we're unable to make those wholesale orders because we're unable to sell those products in Boston. Or a $28 4-pack of seltzers. That's a growing market that we are unable to really provide to adult use consumers in Boston because of this prohibition. So we just wanted to really put context here and give a bigger picture that the $35 limitation is not really specific to pre-rolls. On the license, it says you can't sell anything under $35 total. For any products, it doesn't limit it just to pre-rolls. So we're unable to sell any of these products to adult use consumers, and we know there's a demand of at least 25% of our consumers that want to make purchases under $35. Next, I would like to move to removing the pre-roll products prohibition. This second license condition we wish to address and request approval is the pre-roll sales. Here in the slide, we address why the pre-roll sales are so important to serving our customer base and cannabis' ability to survive as a business overall. While Cannabis worked with a bid in 2020 and agreed to the pre-roll prohibition at that time in order to open its doors as one of the first adult use dispensaries in Boston during the COVID-19 pandemic and the crisis the economy was facing then, there have been a material change in circumstances since this time. Those include the overall economic challenges for businesses overall, really, in the cannabis industry specifically, with limitations on the 280E. I could go into that in the question and answer if you would like, but limitations on what cannabis businesses can do and the financial restraints. It also, the material changes also are the opening of many more dispensaries across the city of Boston without similar conditions that we face, and also the financial limitations by our customer base. Our customer base has expressed to us that they would like to purchase under $35, but we're unable to serve them, and we face that on a daily basis. So here you can see that 47% of our transactions across Massachusetts include pre-rolled products. This is across our medical and adult use co-located dispensaries in Lowell and Greenfield, and then our medical sales in Boston, as we're not able to serve the adult use in Boston in that product form. This data shows how pre-rolled products are critical to cannabis' ability to survive in this location specifically.
Kelly, you are over your time if you want to, because I know you had some technical difficulties, but.
Here, I can just go to the last slide here, actually. Here, we'd like to just show how dispensaries within close proximity to Boston, the red dots on the slide, with the exception of Pure Oasis, are locations where you can purchase pre-rolls. Since cannabis opened for adult use, at least 7 other cannabis businesses have opened. 6 of those do not have the same restrictions of us. We understand that when new markets develop, regulators and municipalities often place conservative approaches to regulating the marketplace. However, Boston's one of the most mature and sophisticated cannabis metro marketplaces on the East Coast right now. So originally, the reason for the pre-roll prohibition was to prevent consumers from smoking products in downtown. However, this fear has not come to fruition over the last 3 years. We've seen no data to support that, and we welcome that data if the bid or if the BCB is able to provide. So as shown on this map, all of these businesses are permitted to sell pre-rolls and are all within a very short walk of the downtown Boston district, and they all attract similar tourist and business traffic as downtown, such as the Faneuil Hall area, the Chinatown area, and also Back Bay. As Commissioner Smith inquired earlier, we're unaware of why the bid in downtown is treated so differently than these areas throughout Boston. We've seen no data or been shown any data that shows that there's been a proliferation of cannabis smoke in the Faneuil Hall area, near the Boston Garden area, or other tourist areas where the city permits BCB licenses. So the fears about the downtown Boston consumption, or downtown Boston being consumed by cannabis smoke compared to the other areas in Boston, has simply not come to fruition, and thus this condition is illogical and inequitable and no longer needed. Cannabis and our adult use consumers do not understand why Boston or downtown is treated so differently than those nearby areas in Boston. So finally, we're also unaware of any other municipalities across the Commonwealth that place similar conditions on the licenses. I'm going to go to the final slide. So it's just to conclude, we remain happy to be a steward in the city of Boston, yet we raised here attention the restrictive business conditions that cannabis operates under and the unequal treatment placed on our business compared to other businesses across Boston, I'm sorry. So essentially, these prohibitions are a solution looking for a reason, not a solution to solve a problem. There's the reason for this has not come to fruition. So we're happy to remain a great business operator and a model operator with the CCC and the BCB. However, these conditions placed in our license really restrict our ability to serve the customer base, and also impact the business's ability to survive in this competitive marketplace now. So thank you again for giving us this opportunity to present here. I would love to answer any questions you might have, and I'll leave it at that. And again, I apologize for the technical issues here. I'll stop sharing my screen and hopefully things will go back to normal here.
Thank you, Kelly. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions?
Thank you. That was a great presentation and very helpful. I am gonna defer to the other commissioners first. I might have more questions after I hear what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Camacho?
I do not have any questions at the moment.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. So just to clarify, you're saying you did, in the previous presentation, it said that because of you all is why they instituted the pre-roll bid, but you're saying no, that did not happen.
At the time that we were trying to expand to adult use sales, we worked with the bid as a good, corporate citizen in the city of Boston to figure out how we could have a successful business here and work with our neighborhood here. So during this time we negotiated, it was during the COVID pandemic, and we were trying to get our ability to sell adult use sales there. So this is one of the things that we had negotiated with them, and understanding that these conditions could change depending on how the market developed. And we did this out of, just to show that we understand those concerns, but the concerns have not come to fruition. So the reason for these conditions to be placed are no longer valid, and we feel that they're now inequitable. We're not able to serve our customer base in the manner that the company should, and really the marketplace desires.
Thank you.
So while they were negotiated at the time during the COVID pandemic, where obviously we all understand the economy was very challenging and, impacted our ability to negotiate, and just various challenges faced during the COVID pandemic, there's been a material change in circumstances since that time. And we're trying to raise to your attention the material change in circumstances that have occurred, and why this is no longer necessary to prevent the proliferation of smoke in downtown Boston.
Thank you. Is it your opinion that without the sale of pre-rolls, these businesses will fail?
I can't speak to Pure Oasis, and I can't say definitively. However, I know that 47% of our adult use consumers wish to have pre-rolls in their products. So that's a very large percentage of sales. And with the current economy, it really impacts our bottom line and the survivability of the business. I can't speak to how long it would take necessarily for conditions to change, but it truly does impact our ability to expand our employee base and hire more Boston residents to work there. And we would love to be able to hire more and have better impact on our community. However, this impacts our bottom line, and we're not able to do that right now because of this condition.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gandhi?
I want to echo Chairwoman Joyce's comment. That was a great presentation. I just have one question, and the question is the products that are below the $35 mark that you cannot currently sell. What percentage of your business does that represent? It may be an unfair question, but do you have any sense of how much percentage of your business that represents? That's the $35 and below that is not pre-rolled.
I was on our menu last night too. I know that the product offer under $35, I believe there was 57 product offerings under $35, but I'd be happy to follow up and get the exact number of products or percentage of products on our menu that are under 35. I just don't have that data in front of me right now. We could pull that, and I'd be happy to send it in a follow-up email to you if that'd be helpful.
Thank you. No other questions. Thanks so much.
Commissioner Soto?
Yes, thank you for that presentation. Curious, actually, just kind of jumping off the last point. I'm curious how many people are walking in to buy a single product, and how, I guess, relevant that is to your average basket price. And so do you have a round number on what the average basket price is for the cannabis consumers? Or customers?
The average, I do not, but I know that 47, I believe it's 47% includes a pre-roll product. So I could, again, this data, I'd be happy to provide it in a follow-up, especially before the next Wednesday's hearing. But any of these data points, I'm happy to send. I just don't have them before me, so I don't want to, misrepresent the actual statistics here.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm kind of weighing those two things against each other. So the average basket price to me in the area that you're in is, I feel like if we disentangle those from Lowell and what was the other one? Starts with a G? No.
Greenfield. It's in
With-
Western
yeah.
Massachusetts.
So I just feel like downtown is going to be substantially different on a number of different levels, in terms of what the price average of that would ultimately be. And I do have a little trouble with the point around 30 individuals walking out, or 30 customers walking out because of the lack of
Per day.
pre-rolls. So in a way that actually is sort of speaking to what the bid is trying to do in a way. And so I'm trying to also do the math on the equity side of that as well. But I feel like that's 30 individuals who aren't walking outside and, lighting up a pre-roll before they go see a show or something to that effect. So I'm thinking out loud and sort of trying to balance those two things against each other, with also wanting to have a business be supported and be able to grow to its maximum ability. So that's just kind of where I'm sitting with these numbers. And I think having a better sense of what is the average, how much is someone spending on average when they go to visit, where just pre-rolls would actually potentially bring that number down. Now you would have more customers, and I get the financial side of that, but I'm just trying to, again, balance those two things against each other, where the bid sits and where the business needs are in order to thrive. So that's just kind of my question and thoughts.
I think have this data now. I just got a message from our head of retail while you were speaking. They're pulling the data as you speak. I can provide. But Dan, would you like to address first?
Well, I just wanted to say, I mean, the issue with the 30 customers who come in and leave because they can't purchase a pre-roll is not that they're going without pre-rolls, is that they're able to walk 600 feet away, just outside of the catchment area of the downtown bid, buy pre-rolls and shift sort of our business space and our competitive space. So it's not that less pre-rolls, whatever that number is being smoked in downtown Crossing. It's just they're being bought 600 feet away instead of it being distributed across all the entities within the downtown.
Right, and as we know, where our location is in Boston, walking to Faneuil Hall area, walking to the Back Bay, everything's very walkable there. So these consumers are not going without. They're just going to a competitor that has a advantage over us, that doesn't have the ability to sell those products. So I have the data too, also, if you'd like me to go through it. I know that 18% of our sales in mature markets are pre-rolls. So almost 20% of all of our sales are associated with pre-rolls. It's a substantial dent in our bottom line here. And their average basket size in Boston is $58 right now.
Okay, that's helpful.
Our average
Thank
basket
you.
size in Lowell is 86, and our average basket size in Greenfield is 70. And that's a reflection because in Greenfield and Lowell, there's parking lots. People buy bigger purchases because they can actually carry it out with them. Boston, and the nature of the location here, individuals often buy smaller things that they can put in their purse, that they can bring home on the tea with them, and just various other forms of transportation, because they don't have a car to then transport a big bulk purchase there.
Okay,
So
that's
$35 really does meet the demand based on those who are coming in and just their ability to actually carry these products out the store.
That's very helpful context. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Holmes?
Just a quick one, Ms. Rivera. Does do these restrictions, are they also on your medical side, or is it just recreational?
They are not on our medical side. We've been selling pre-rolls to our medical patients for 8 years and without incident here. And in our educational pamphlets, we also specify that consumers should not be smoking within the neighborhood. We've requested that, and we have that on our pamphlet to say that, just so we can be a good citizen there. So we advise them that they should not be doing, consuming in certain areas. However, we can't control our customers once they leave the door. We do our best to educate them. However, they're adults that have their products. They consume them however they want.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairwoman Joyce?
Thank you. So I don't know if the question's for Dan or for Kelly, but Dan has stopped into this office several times asking for guidance about what to do about this condition that's on his license. And I have always been hesitant to step in here as a regulator because this is a private agreement between the cannabis store Patriot Care and the downtown bid. And as a regulator, I don't feel like it's my role to get involved in a private agreement. So my question has been repeatedly to their group is what has the bid said to you when you've approached them and asked them to reconsider this? One, have you had those conversations? And two, what were those conversations like? I know the other group that's going to testify next has approached them, but tell me about your conversations. Instead of coming to us as government to come in and insert ourselves in a private agreement, I'm asking you what work you've done on your part with the downtown bid.
Sure, thanks. I mean, we have spoken with downtown bid, both with Mike Nichols and with Rose Boardman over the extended period of time. As you know, we've come to the BCB both as a group and I've reached out individually to talk about this. They have been consistent in their statement that pre-rolls are just a hard no. They have been open to discussions around the basket size, but we really do feel that we have an agreement with the bid that has written right into our agreement. When we want to have a condition of change, we will give you advance notice. We will have a conversation about it, and we will approach the BCB. So even within that private agreement, there's an underlying understanding that the BCB makes the final decision and that there's an expectation of sort of evolving needs and evolving conditions. And Kelly, let me know if I'm missing anything.
Oh no,
crucial there.
that's accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Joyce, did you have any?
Sorry, yeah. So have you requested them formally to allow you to sell with these pre-rolls without that condition on your license on the retail side?
So we've operated on the understanding that it was the BCB's prerogative. We have not sort of had a formal issue to change our agreement,
But I think I've repeatedly asked you to do that when you've stepped into this office. I've told you before, I have felt uncomfortable moving forward with forcing them to remove this condition because I wasn't party to the agreement. It was a private agreement between the bid and your company.
Sure. Well, my understanding it was, I mean, I do recognize that you brought that up many times. My understanding of the nature of our agreement with the BCB or with the bid was that initial framing, but we are, happy to, have any and all conversations with the bid about it. We've raised our concerns. We've made presentations to them around our concerns on this. We really do feel strongly, and I hear absolutely what you're saying, Chair, but we think that at the end of the day, the BCB is our regulator, and our agreement says that we will comply with the license conditions and the HCA, which you all oversee.
Okay.
But I do hear what you're saying. I'm not trying to dance.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's something we haven't dealt with before. Thank you. I appreciate your answers. I appreciate your presentation.
We welcome a conversation with the bid, and to continue this relationship, we want to ultimately have a working, transparent relationship with the bid. It's just Mr. Nichols had said though that they're not willing to lift that restriction, so we're happy to have that conversation. But I would foresee us coming before the board again due to an inability to agree to a change in circumstances or the change of conditions there. So we're happy to continue that. I just feel like we'll be before you again in the short term if that conversation is not fruitful.
Mike, would you be willing to sit down with them? I think I've asked this before, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but.
Yeah, the answer is always. I mean, we have always said to this commission that we will have any conversation. Cannabis has not reached out to us on this issue, has not reached out to us in the year 2024, has not requested any variance in their license restrictions. We have never had a conversation with them on the topic, at least not in the 2 years that I've been. a part of the organization. So this was new news today. We remain open to a conversation.
Last year, we actually met in person and relating to a past transaction that didn't go through. We met in person in the office to discuss this. It was part of one of the
It was not on this
conversation
topic.
pieces that we had.
It wasn't on this topic. It wasn't on license restriction.
I think we can agree to disagree on that. But I'm happy to engage in a conversation moving forward with that. But I also would like to set aside again why downtown Boston is treated so differently than all of the other nearby community or nearby areas that have similar business operations, have similar tourist traffic, have similar retail interest compared to for Faneuil Hall. We're struggling to understand why downtown Boston is so restrictive when 500 yards away, cannabis businesses are regulated and able to operate under significantly different conditions. That's just something that's really difficult for us to understand. And Boston really pushes equity and equality across just the city overall. And we just truly feel that this is inequitable and it prevents our ability really to survive here. So I understand we need to work with the bid and we would love to do that. We want to be a good corporate citizen in the city of Boston. However, this is just really a material change from where we began with these conditions to where we are now. So I just want to point that out again. The market really has matured and there is no proof of the difference between 500 feet away selling pre-rolls to where we are now. And additionally, the $35 purchase limit, I really want to point out how discriminatory that is to low income consumers. That just can't be overlooked because $35 is a significant amount for a lot of the consumers here.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Any other questions, comments from the board members? All right, we'll move to Pure Oasis and then we'll take public testimony after they give their testimony. Who's present on behalf of Pure Oasis?
Thank you.
Kobe, I see you talking, but I can't hear you. No volume.
While Kobe is working on fixing that, let me introduce myself again. This is Attorney Mike Ross working with Pure Oasis and Kobe. Together we filed appearance here today. Are you back, Kobe?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Totally forgot I had my earpods on. Jasmine, hi. I'm sorry. My name is Kobe Evans. I'm here with our attorney, Mike Ross. Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce and members of the board. My name is Kobe Evans. I am the co-owner of Pure Oasis, Boston's first cannabis dispensary. We opened our first store in March of 2020. We opened our second downtown location just over a year ago. I think, what I'd like to do is kind of echo some of the things that Kelly and Dan stated in terms of the market has changed over the years. The wholesale prices have come down, and as such, the price of the average quantity, a gram of flower, has come down significantly, which has been good for the consumer, making it more affordable. And in turn, what that has done is lowered the kind of the entry point for purchase in cannabis. And so to Kelly's point, we're seeing more and more people making smaller purchases for a number of different reasons. One is just market conditions. Two, it's competitiveness in the industry. And three, after COVID, things are just more expensive based on inflation. People have less money to spend, so they're enjoying the ability to have less discretionary income available for cannabis, and they're spending that at the dispensary or in the illegal market. And also to the point that it is very discriminatory for people of color when you have these restrictions in an area where there's a lot of blue collar workers and retail staff, because they don't have as much disposable income. And so when they spend their money, they'd rather do it in the legal market versus the illegal market. But when you have restrictions around dispensaries in an area like downtown, and people have to go further, it's easier to go to the corner of Tremont Street and Summer Street or Winter Street and purchase illegally. One of the comments was that, when people can't purchase pre-rolls is that they go without. And unfortunately, that's not the case. customers are able to purchase illegal cannabis in the downtown area just as easily as they can purchase legal cannabis. The market's changed over the years and prices are definitely coming down. But these restrictions have the biggest impact on people of color, people of lower incomes, and Boston is ranked one of the most expensive cities in the country. And when you have these restrictions, it makes it harder for people to purchase cannabis legally. I think that, there should be a level playing field across the city, and that when you have these restrictions on businesses like Pure Oasis, and I will advocate for businesses like the cannabis, there shouldn't be a disparity between one neighborhood to the other. And what this does is it creates a disparity, and it's hard to justify the reasons for it. As a business owner downtown, I'm sensitive to things like litter. I'm sensitive to things like people smoking in public, and it's normal to walk the neighborhood to see what the impact is. And, there is definitely a heightened smell of cannabis in the neighborhood, but you also have areas where people are openly selling cannabis illegally, and some of the smoke shops down here sell other cannabis related products, whether it's legal or illegal, that has an effect on the market. But we also want to be good neighbors, and we want to make sure that we're not having a detrimental impact to the neighborhood. And with that, we are sensitive to our clients, and we remind them that smoking in public is illegal. And it's hard to tell where people are coming from when they are passing through and they're smoking. But that's the life we are right now in terms of with legalization and decriminalization, where people can, buy from different places. But I think we've come to the point where we need to revisit this restriction, because at the end of the day, what it is it's a restriction. What it does is it restricts our ability to be competitive. It restricts our ability to be profitable. It restricts our ability to have a level playing field. And I think it's come to a point where, I think we've reached the end of the road on this agreement, that we need some sort of revisiting of the conversation to be able to have some relief for both Pure Oasis and the cannabis. Thank you.
Chair, members of the board, just to add one thing here, the issue is further complicated by the recent changes to the host community agreement regime that the CCC and the Massachusetts State Legislature promulgated. It puts the Boston Cannabis Board in an untenable situation where it requires you to provide different sets of rules and regulations for one operator where you're not for another. And when that comes to implementing your host community agreement, which I know that this board has worked extensively on since the beginning of host community agreements, and in many ways has led the way on removing things like the 3% fee and other issues that you've done to kind of be on the front end of this. It puts you in a very horrible situation where you're having to create different sets of rules for different operators. And at a time when the CCC has this model host community agreement requirement, where this information could easily cause the host community agreement itself to be rejected based on the fact that it's not compliant in the eyes of the CCC, because it creates different conditions that may not be allowable by law. That again puts this commission in a very difficult perspective. So I just wanted to point that out as well. I'm available for questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Camacho?
No questions.
Commissioner Gandhi?
Thank you. I have no questions right now.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. No questions.
Commissioner Soto?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Holmes?
No questions, ma'am.
Okay, so we will now move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives.
Hi everyone, this is Laura here from Councilor Flynn's office. I just want to start by saying good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Councilor Flynn would like to emphasize that when applicants go through a community process and make agreements with relevant civic groups that is recognized by the city and the Cannabis Board, They should be honoring those agreements and the time and effort that was put in by neighbors during the public process. There should be a fair playing field for all, with everyone abiding by the same rules. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Are there any other elected officials or their representatives that would like to speak? All right, Luke, did anyone sign up to testify?
Yes, we got a Shantae Clark.
I don't see her name.
Yeah, I don't see her in here.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to testify on this matter? All right, seeing, oh. Ms. Ames, I see your hand is raised.
Have you unmuted?
Yep, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Hi, I'm Peggy Ings, and I'm a member of the Business Improvement District. And I want to say, when you first were creating this proposal to the community and the city, you committed to only doing medical marijuana. It was a big to-do.
Can
That
you,
would,
sorry, can you specify, are you talking to both applicants or one? Which applicant are you
talking about Patriot Care
talking? Okay,
Cannabis.
just
Yep.
one.
And so it was a long, drawn-out situation, as we all know, who were involved, and therefore very skeptical about the fact that you came back and said, oh, now we would like your support to do a recreational cannabis, to add that to our license. And that was a bit of a shock, because it took so long to really get to the point of the medical one. And you committed to such a strong opinion about why you would only do medical. So here we are again. You got the recreational due to folks really believing in you again. And then you came back again and you wanted to change the times. And I believe you were denied that, but you did that, I think, within a month or two of when you began your recreational dispensary. So, and here we are again with another situation on a contract that you were bound by. And I think you need to really say to yourselves, we committed to this contract and now we have to abide by it. And I think it's time that you do that. And I think that the bid is doing what it should be doing, which is honoring the contract for that location. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to testify? All right, seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement. That will conclude today's hearing. Thank you all for attending and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.